guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a video about my top 10 favorite books. I will do this alphabetically as I can't tell you which one is my absolute favorite and which one is my least favorite. I can't pick, don't ask me to do it. So the first one is Agnes Gray by Anne Bronte. I think people often forget about Anne, they always think about Charlotte, and I like Charlotte. I think Charlotte dealt with very important issues such as gender equality in her novels, and I think that was quite important and ahead of her time in a way. But I think Anne's writing is much more significant. In Agnes Gray, I really love the story because of that, because I think it's much more realistic. She weaves a great story out of her experiences as a governess. The way she describes human behavior, children's attitudes towards violence and torture, even mental torture, is so raw, is so dark, that I think it's much more insightful than Charlotte. She's not my favorite Bronte or Charlotte, but my favorite Bronte is on the list, you will see. Obviously I just gave it away. And yes, I think everyone should read Agnes Gray. It's a lovely story, but it's so realistic. While I think with Charlotte you have the fictional factor a bit more present, and that's the main reason for me why I think Agnes Gray is one of my favorite books. Then we have Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson, but mine's in Portuguese. And I watched the film first. I was around 15, and after I read this book, it kind of inspired me or influenced what I wanted to do with my life. This book is really important to me because of that. For a long time I thought about pursuing journalism because of Hunter S. Thompson, and I went into literature in the end, but it was in part because of him, because of this book, because of the Rum Diary. But I don't know, it's just after I read this, I just felt inspired. I wanted to do everything and anything with words, and just turn everything to poetry and a story and an article and anything. I just wanted to write, and he was this book was what inspired me, and he's one of my favorite authors. If you haven't read this book, please do. I've read the English version, but I don't have a copy. I read it on my laptop. So then we have Charles Dickens, Hard Times. One person asked me why I like Charles Dickens, and I said because he's perfect, and I'm gonna stick with that. I think Dickens is perfect. I think he reminds me of Essa Queiroz. Essa Queiroz is a Portuguese author, also from the 19th century, like Charles Dickens, and Essa is perfect. There's not a word out of place, there's not a comma out of place. Everything in his stories is absolutely perfect, and I feel the same with Charles Dickens. I just think everything he writes is just it really had to be there. Also, this book was my first approach. I study others, but this was my first book about or within the English Victorian literature, and that's why it's very close to me. The next book I want to read by Charles Dickens, because I've read others, but the next one I want to read is Our Mutual Friend, because I've read and I've watched a lot of videos on BookTube about Our Mutual Friend, and everyone says it's great, so I will leave you. Then we have Heart or Darkness by Joseph Conrad. This book is again very important to me. When I was writing my master's dissertation. My master's dissertation is about pre-evolutionary notions of the 16th and 17th century, and about Peter the Wild Boy arriving to England, and Joseph Conrad kind of inspired my conclusion. In my conclusion, I raised questions about imperialism and racism, and I was going to continue on that topic in my PhD. I decided to do a second master's in education instead. I don't know if when I do my PhD, because I want to do it, I don't know if I'm going to continue the topic or not, but still it was an important book to me during a very important moment in my life, so that's why it's on the list. Then we have Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. This is my copy, was the first copy, and then for my birthday, my boyfriend gave me the selected works of Virginia Woolf, and Mrs. Dalloway is also there. This was my first fictional work by Virginia Woolf. I started with her nonfiction because I was writing a project for English literature when I was studying in England, and then I had to read Mrs. Dalloway, Between the Acts and the Years, for another essay when I was studying here again in Portugal. And Mrs. Dalloway is my absolute favorite. So far, I haven't read all of her works, obviously. So far, this one is my favorite. I think there are a lot of authors who could have done this, just write a story that just in a day, but at the same time, it's not a story just during that day, because you go back and forth in time with Clarissa's flashbacks and you never get bored. I think this is it's so alive. This story is so alive, and you can feel that she really cares about her characters. She feels their pain and she feels their happiness, and I think it's an important book, and I think all of her works are so important, and she put a lot of herself in her work, and that's what I think it's most important to mention. So Mrs. Dalloway obviously had to be here. Then we have Cossack Nation by Elizabeth Hertzell, but mine is in Portuguese, Nação Cossack. I read this book also, I think it was after I read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but I was around also 15, 16, no, sorry, I'm confusing. This book I read right before I went into university. It was a summer before I went to university. I think I was 18 at the time. And I relate to this book because when I was in high school, I had to deal with depression and social anxiety, and I was very nervous about going to university. And Elizabeth, if you have read or if you have watched the film, you know that she's starting university as well. She was studying journalism and literature, she was writing, she was dealing with her inner demons, and I just automatically related to her. And I don't relate to her so much now, and I don't know anything about Elizabeth, and I don't want to know anything about Elizabeth because I only think about her here. And I think this book is important because it's important to me, because it made me feel less alone, but also I related to the character in a way that before that I hadn't related to any character like that. And this was the first time that I actually felt so, I felt such a strong connection with the book. So that's the main reason, obviously. And sometimes when I'm having a bad day or something like that, sometimes I pick it up and I read 1 or 2 chapters that I really love, and it's a book that's always there for me. And I think she was very courageous to write this book. And the last part, when she's reflecting upon all the people who just have to go on antidepressants to be able to just live and breathe, I think it's very powerful and in a way so personal that it's almost like we should be grateful for her to share her thoughts with us. Then we have another book that I really love as well, and again it's more or less because it made me feel like I wasn't alone, and that's Sylvia Plath's Bell Jar. This one I read when I was 14 or 15, and I think it was after Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. But with this one, I think it was different. I also related to the book. It also made me feel like I wasn't alone, but I didn't relate so much with the character in a way, and in the same way that I related to Elizabeth. And I think this book was important to me growing up because when I was 14 or 15, I knew that I had some difficulties, with meeting people and then making friends and be okay with myself, but I didn't really know what it was. And this was the first book that I read on that topic, about a person who's going through the same. And that's why this book is so important to me. That's why I think it's more or less the same reason of Cossack Nation, but not so much because I relate to the character, more because it made me understand what I was going through. So I read this book first, and then just years after that I read her poetry, and obviously I love her poetry. And if I had a chance to start my PhD, I don't know if I wanted to continue my master's dissertation or if I wanted to work on memoir and confessional poetry together. So that's why I'm confused about that. But now it's not important because I'm studying something else, and I'm so super excited about that. And there's another reason why I read this book. I don't know if you know that movie 10 Things I Hate About You. There is a part where Katerina is reading The Bell Jar, and she mentions Cecilia Plath more than once, I think. And I love that character so much growing up that I wanted to read The Bell Jar and see what all the fuss was about, and it actually helped me a lot. Then we have an author that a lot of people don't like, and I don't know, it's weird because I've only read one book, and he's already here. The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. And yes, a lot of people hate this book, or they just hate Steinbeck, they don't like Steinbeck's style, and I can understand that. It's really heavy, it's really dense, the descriptions are just all over the place, and you have chapters that it's just so long that sometimes gets a bit boring. I admit it, but I think this book is so interesting. I'm a fan of realism, and American realism. I think it's really if the author uses something he went through in his work of fiction, for me is always interesting. But John Steinbeck used it, I don't know, it's just, I think he was so insightful when he did it. And what I love about this book are the small chapters in between. So you have a long chapter, then you have a short one, a long one, a short one, and the short chapters, they kind of glue the whole story together. You have the main story about a family trying to survive after losing their home and losing their land, and going to California to find jobs, and just having to deal with poverty and starvation, and the possibility of dying. And then you have the chapters in between that actually it's like he tries. The chapters are there kind of to teach the reader about this historic era of the 1930s after the Great Depression. And yes, I think it was important to have those chapters here. And those chapters actually, I think, because at the beginning I wasn't enjoying the book, and then something clicked, and I think it was because of those chapters. You have more than one speaker at times, and the situations are just so real, and it's that thing that fiction does. You read the story and you think, okay, this is a story, and sometimes the reader is not successful into creating an impact. And with Steinbeck, that doesn't happen. He creates an impact. You really feel this happening, and you feel tired, you feel exhausted and scared that something is going to happen to you. And I don't know, it really I think it's a great work of fiction, and everyone should read it. And then more or less on the same topic about what fiction does to you, we have a book that I've been wanting to do a video about this book for a while, but I don't think I can. I don't think anyone can, because there's so many things to talk about. But at the same time, you think you shouldn't talk about anything, and that's, we need to talk about Kevin. And oh boy, we need to talk about Kevin. This book, I don't know if you have watched the film. The book is quite different from the film. The book are just letters from Kevin's mom to her husband, and just, you know, explaining everything from the beginning and until that fateful night. But the thing about this book is that you feel completely powerless. You feel like you're sitting in a chair and you have Kevin's mom next to you, and she's reading you the letters she wrote, and you just sit there and you just have to listen, and you can't do anything. You literally can't do anything. And again, the subject of this book is something that it's on the news a lot, unfortunately. And when you're watching TV and you watch the news and something like this shows up, yes, you feel it. You wonder why people do these things. You wonder what those people are going through, and at that time you are going to feel it, but then you are going to move on. This book just made me question so many things about myself, about the people that I know, about the people that I think I know, about the world, about everything. It was just, after I read this, I just had to reflect upon everything, because it was kind of like, I don't know anything anymore. Who knows? And while you're reading it, you are going to have opinions, but every opinion that you have, you feel like it's wrong. You shouldn't be having an opinion. You can't think about anything. You are scared that everything you are going to say is wrong, or that it's not I don't know, it's not correct, and it's depressing, but at the same time it creates such a great impact. This book is powerful and chilling and terrifying at the same time. And it kind of sounds like a bad review, but it's not. This is a great book. I urge everyone to read it, give it a go. So important, really. I rest my case. And then we have finally my favorite Bronte. Emily. Emily is my favorite Bronte. I think Wuthering Heights is a well-accomplished novel. I think the gothic and supernatural factors here are so ahead of her time, and considering her poetry, I don't know, I didn't think I would like this book so much. But I did. And it's really because people have an idea about Wuthering Heights, and they think this is a love and romantic story and all that, but read the book. This is very, very interesting, and I think Emily was so ahead of her time. People forget about Emily. Don't forget about Emily. Please read Wuthering Heights. Such a lovely novel. And yeah, if I have to give you my preferences, it's Emily and Charlotte. Yes. Check it for yourself, read the book, then let me know. So guys, that's it. 10 books, my 10 favorite books, and why they are my 10 favorites. But I have more, so who knows, maybe one day I'll do another video like this one. I felt really bad yesterday when I was speaking the books. I was just, I still love you, but you're not going to be in this video. And I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you share the same opinion or not, and if you have any suggestions, please also leave them on the comment section below. This was suggested by a girl on Instagram. Thank you so much for that. And yes, so I will see you on my next video. Bye.